The theater was quiet in a gentle way, not the sharp silence of fear, but the soft hush that comes before something important, or in the empty microphone at its center. The audience settled into their seats, breathing together, waiting. Above them, the ceiling glowed like a calm night sky. This was America's Got Talent, a place where hope often walked in trembling and left standing taller. From the side of the stage, a boy waited. His name was Ethan Miller. He was small for his age, with narrow shoulders and careful eyes that had learned to watch before trusting. His hands rested at his sides, fingers touching, then separating, then touching again. He wore a simple dark jacket that looked borrowed, not new, but clean and neatly pressed. The shoes on his feet were polished just enough to reflect the stage lights when he took a step forward. Ethan was an orphan. That word followed him everywhere, even when no one said it out loud. His parents had died when he was very young, and memories of them came in fragments. A laugh near a kitchen sink. A voice humming while washing dishes. A warm hand on his head. After that, life became a series of rooms that were not his, beds that changed, and faces that cared but never stayed forever. He learned to keep his heart quiet, folded inward like a letter never sent. Music was the one thing that stayed. In group homes and foster houses, there was always a radio somewhere. Sometimes it played softly in the background. Sometimes it crackled with static. But when Ethan heard songs, his chest felt less empty. Music filled spaces he could not name. Late at night, when the house was asleep, he would sit by a window and listen, letting melodies move through him like slow breaths. One song stayed with him more than others. Hotel California. He first heard it on an old radio in a shelter lounge. The sound was warm and mysterious, like a long road at sunset. The words felt strange and familiar at the same time, speaking of places you enter and never fully leave. Ethan did not understand everything about the song, but he felt it deeply. It sounded like longing. It sounded like searching. It sounded like him. Now, that song waited inside him as he stood behind the curtain. A stage assistant gave him a gentle nod. "You're up," she whispered. Ethan stepped forward. The curtain opened, and the light found him. For a moment, the audience saw only a boy standing alone under a wide sky of brightness. He walked slowly to the microphone, each step careful, as if he did not want to disturb the floor. When he stopped, he took a breath that lifted his shoulders, then let it fall. Across from him, the judges watched. Simon Cowell leaned slightly forward, his face neutral but attentive. Howie Mandel smiled softly, hands folded. Heidi Klum tilted her head with interest. Sofia Vergara rested her chin on her hand, eyes warm and curious. "What's your name?" Simon asked. "Ethan Miller," the boy said. His voice was quiet but clear. "And how old are you, Ethan?" "I'm 14. Simon nodded. "And who did you come here with today?" Ethan paused. The pause was not empty. It carried weight. "I came by myself," he said gently. The room seemed to breathe in. Simon's expression softened. "Okay. And what will you be performing?" Ethan swallowed once. "I'll be singing Hotel California by the Eagles." There was a ripple in the audience. Some raised eyebrows. Some exchanged looks. It was a big song. A long song. A song filled with history. "Whenever you're ready," Simon said. The music began softly, the familiar opening notes drifting through the air like a memory waking up. Ethan closed his eyes for half a second, then opened them again. He leaned toward the microphone and sang the first line. His voice was not loud. It did not rush. It carried a quiet honesty that made people lean in without realizing it. Each word landed gently, as if placed with care. He sang as though he was telling a story he had lived inside for a long time. As the song moved forward, his voice grew warmer. Not bigger, but deeper. The audience felt it in their chests. The lyrics about a dark desert highway and cool wind in his hair sounded different when they came from someone so young. They felt less like a scene and more like a feeling. A long road, a lonely night, a search for shelter. Ethan's hands stayed still at his sides. He did not perform with gestures or smiles. His face held a calm seriousness, but his eyes shone. They reflected the stage lights and something older than his years. He sang about a place that promised rest, about being welcomed, about realizing that leaving was not simple. Halfway through the song, something shifted. It was small, but it was there. His voice trembled, just once, then steadied. That moment carried truth. It told the room that this song was not just a choice. It was a mirror. Simon sat back slightly, eyes fixed on the stage. Howie's smile faded into something more thoughtful. Heidi pressed her lips together, moved. Sophia's eyes glistened as she blinked slowly. Ethan reached the chorus, and the theater seemed to hold its breath. His voice lifted, not in power, but in openness. He sang of a place you can check out of, but never truly leave. The words echoed softly, settling into corners of the room, touching places people did not often visit. As the final notes approached, Ethan's voice grew quieter. He did not push for a big ending. He let the song close the way it wanted to close, slowly, like a door being shut with care. The music faded. The last word hung in the air for a moment, then disappeared. Silence followed. It was not the silence of confusion. It was the silence of feeling. The audience sat still, many with hands clasped, eyes wet, hearts open. Ethan stood at the microphone, breathing softly, unsure of where to look. Then the applause came. It started gently, then grew, rising like a wave. People stood. Some wiped their faces. The clapping filled the space, warm and steady. Ethan blinked, surprised. He gave a small nod, as if thanking the room for listening. Simon spoke first. His voice was calm, measured. "Ethan," he said, "that was not an easy song to sing. But you didn't sing it to impress us. You sang it because you meant it." Ethan listened, hands still, shoulders relaxed. "There was a truth in your voice," Simon continued. "And that's very rare." Howie leaned forward. "You know," he said, "sometimes people come here and try to be big. You came here and were real. That takes courage." Heidi smiled through tears. "Your voice feels like a story," she said softly. "And we all wanted to hear the end." Sophia placed her hand on her chest. "You made me feel something very deep," she said. "That is a gift." Ethan nodded again, his eyes shining brighter now. "Thank you," he whispered. Simon looked at the other judges, then back at Ethan. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Yes, sir." "Why this song?" Ethan thought for a moment. "Because it sounds like looking for a home," he said. "And sometimes finding one, even if it's not perfect." The room went quiet again, but this time it was softer, kinder. Simon nodded slowly. "I think," he said, "that a lot of people will remember this moment." Then, without rushing, Simon reached forward and pressed the button. Gold light burst into the air. The golden confetti fell like warm rain, spinning and drifting around Ethan as the audience gasped and cheered. Ethan looked up, eyes wide, as the light surrounded him. For a second, he did not move. Then he lifted his hands slightly, as if to catch the falling pieces. The judges stood. The crowd roared. Ethan laughed once, a small sound, surprised and full. Tears slipped down his cheeks, but he did not wipe them away. In that moment, under the falling gold, Ethan did not feel like a boy alone on a stage. He felt seen. He felt held by sound and light and people who believed. Later, backstage, as the noise softened and the lights dimmed, Ethan sat quietly on a bench. A staff member brought him a bottle of water. He thanked her. His hands were still shaking, but his breathing was calm. For the first time in a long while, the space inside him felt different. Not full, not finished, but open, like a door left unlocked. He thought about the song, about the road, about the idea of a place you enter and change inside. He realized that maybe home was not just a building. Maybe it was a moment when someone listened. Maybe it was standing in your truth and being met with kindness. As Ethan walked out of the theater that night, the air was cool and clear. The city lights stretched ahead like stars on the ground. He took a deep breath and stepped forward, carrying the song with him, not as a memory of pain, but as a promise. And for the first time, the road ahead did not feel endless. It felt possible.